Hello there, this is Big Benedict. We're playing God of War, Ghost of Sparta on God, very hard difficulty, and this is installment the 9th. There will be one more installment after this with the Thanatos boss fight, but this is the Domain of Death, and there really is only one fight that's egregiously difficult, and I'm sure you all know which one it is because I've spoken about it at length. But I love this chapter. Okay, so what I did right there was I fell into that chasm about 10 times before it gave me nearly all my health back. Then I got the chest because I'm not going to need magic. Well, you might struggle with another fight coming up with the Carries Wraiths. I think there's 5 of them, but you only ever fight 2 at a time, and then you're going to also fight some birds. But the best advice I can give you for that fight, if you look at my other guide, I went hog wild using the magic, and I fancy that I'm a much better player now, and I hope that, with the help of this guide, that you're a lot better than when you started out too. So it is important to not take too much damage here. I would say if you get grabbed by these guys, it calls for a restart because it just takes away too much damage. So we've just got, I'm not sure the count of the satyrs, it's about 6, it's at least 6, and then there's 3 of the minotaurs. Now these guys they're a bit different than what we faced before. I think their cudgels are a little bit bigger, but you just want to go for your parries and just dispose of the minotaur, the satyr lackeys as best as you can. Actually, I wouldn't consider them a lackey. It's just they're part of the fight. These guys aren't too bad. So you don't even have to bother with parrying because you can block every one of this guy's attacks. Just don't go too crazy with your attacks, and you should be pretty good. Just ignite charges in him, let him drop, combo him, and keep him in a state of perpetual stun if you can, as much as possible anyway. He's going to rouse a little bit, but... So I finished the game. I'm already finished the game. I'm coming back here. I've got about 50 minutes worth of commentary to do, or probably close to an hour. And the Thanatos boss fight I did on the first try. Now, don't let that sound like... don't think to yourself that was overly easy for me. Because when I did it on God mode before, it took me a couple of hours to figure it out, and then it was just an exercise in formality this time because I knew exactly what he was doing, and I could predict and respond to all of his attacks very quickly because I faced him for so many tries. So here is Minotaur number 2. If you lose a little bit of health here, it's not the end of the world, but getting grabbed by a satyr, you probably are going to risk coming to the main fight that's difficult and not having full health. There's really nothing worse than that, so just always prepare for that. And there is a fight coming up with some, I think they're armored cyclopses, but they have another name. I think they're tyrants. Same guys we've fought before. And I didn't know this, but you can actually guard against their when they do the 1-2 hit, you can actually guard against that. I'll show you when it comes up. Okay, so this is the last guy. Don't get greedy at this point. Then we're going to be facing some weeds that we haven't faced before. Interesting concept for an enemy. But Arthur's Bane, usually one charge into the weeds will burn it up completely. But since Arthur's Bane is at level 1, it's going to take one charge plus a couple of extra hits. That's what I noticed over here. So this fight's pretty simple. Like I said, just grab the satyrs, launch, and then chain throw them in the air, and then just focus on these guys here. For me, Demos was harder than Thanatos, but they're both manageable fights, extremely manageable, and that's a sign of a good boss fight in my opinion. So just finish this guy off here. Okay, so the barrier will lower. There's no threat on the mountainside, but just be extremely careful here. Don't let these guys get in a cheap hit. I mean, these guys, it's fucking grass. It's weeds or corn stalks, whatever they are. I think it's a really interesting idea. So once you see the animation of it burning, you can walk through with immunity. See these charges? Normally that would be sufficient to take care of it, even on God mode, but it takes a couple of extra hits, maybe even just as few as 2 extra hits. So just guard, ignite a charge, wait for it to hit again, and then just hit it a couple more times with Thera's Bane. And then just feel free to walk through, and you'll take no damage. So we'll face a couple of birds up here. And just, don't let these guys henpeck you. There's plenty of checkpoints over here if you happen to take a hit or two. So it looks like I'm electing to throw this just for safety. But just watch out for these newly spawned ones spawning close to you. And there is one bad checkpoint up ahead. Why is it bad? It's bad because you have to do the dogs every time, and also you have to listen to the narrator, Gaia, talk every time. Although, what I'm going to tell you is, when you kill the dogs, just go back and save it. So that will ensure that you don't have to do the dogs every time. And then you'll only have to listen to Thera talk. That's the only thing. It's a fun fight too, I really will admit that. I love the landscape. I mean, it's got the simplicity of it being on a PSP game, but I like the dark colors. It definitely suits like a final level, the ambience and the color scheme. Okay, and then there might also be another bird coming too at this point. So just don't lower your guard until you're sure. Yeah, there he is. Final bird. Okay, so just going to double check that there's nothing over there. And then these things take several hits to take down. So wait for your Thera's Bane to regenerate. Then we'll go in here, smash some objects. Okay, another one of these. I can say that once I beat the game and then I started a new campaign, not with New Game Plus, but the same way you would start God of War 3 on Chaos on a new game without being on a New Game Plus. And this game, it doesn't let you use the collectibles unless you're playing on New Game Plus. It's really fucking stupid and I hate it, but at least I'm glad because that's what I was trying to do. I was wanting to play a new game on God, but it still won't let you use the collectibles. So you won't see any edits over here because I did this on my first try. This is my third straight campaign, like I said before. So aerial grabs on these guys, guard as you come down. And that will prevent you. There's a lot of carries rates here, but you'll never fight more than 2 at once. I think there's 5. So, like, when I first played this game and got on hard and COD, like, I didn't even stop to think like what would be the best thing to do here. I just went hog wild with the magic, and I'm glad I'm not like a player like that anymore. That doesn't assess things as thoroughly as they should be assessed, particularly on games you really love and appreciate. I mean, I have deep respect and veneration for this entire franchise, and I might even cover Chains of Olympus next. I'm not sure. I don't. Okay, here's the thing. Okay, so anyway, 2 at a time. I shouldn't even tell you guys. I mean, I shouldn't even have to tell you guys how to do this at this point, because we faced 3 of these guys at one point earlier in the game. So this is child's play. But the loading. I just want to address the Evil Within real quick. I have it on the PC now. I have it on the PC and the PS4. I wish I didn't have it on the latter. The load times on the PS4 are disgusting. Much faster on the PC. But I am not very good at the Evil Within, and I am going to have to actually call my brother and ask him like what's going on, because I don't know what's expected of me in that game. And my brother and I don't talk as much as we should, so it's less of desperation on my part rather than, and it's more of like an opening to talk to him, because we don't talk enough. So it's a good segue into conversation. But he's cleared the game, and he's probably going to clear it on the higher difficulties. And I just want to know a little bit more what's going on, and I trust him implicitly because he's cleared RE4 on professional. He gave me a whole history lesson of Resident Evil when I was talking about the Evil Within, and I trust the guy implicitly. My brother, that is. He was telling me how Shinji Mikami directed all the REs up until number 5. And he's not bothered by the letterboxing. He respects the game enough. And he told me don't hold out for a patch. And I'm not going to. I don't need a patch because my software is running perfectly with that flawless widescreen program that I mentioned in the previous video. The one thing I like about these carries race though, well, that was a little close, wasn't it? The recovery time after you do the quick time event, that was kind of worrying me when I was doing these higher level runs. And I can safely say that they give you enough time to guard after you come out of that quick time event. If they didn't, that would be extremely unfair, especially in view of the fact that later in the game, the last fight before Demos, it's very cheap. It only took me an hour, but I did employ Taz 1-1 strategy. But still, even though you know the strategy, like what I'm going to show you, there's no guarantee that you'll be able to do it, because it's all skill, patience, and it's manipulating the environment, but you still have to be good enough to be able to do it. I know of a couple of tactics for that particular one, and I was trying to focus on killing the carries race at first, and I couldn't keep on top of where the guy was going to spawn, because they shove you off when they do their claw attack. I'll tell you about it when we near it a little bit more. But essentially, what I'm talking about is the armored Cyclopses and the carries race at the end of the game. When you first get there, you'll have 2 of them spawn, the carries race that is. And about 10 to 15 seconds after you enter the arena, the truant Cyclops will spawn. But he won't spawn if you hover over the area where he's located. And when I say hover, I mean you have to stand there. You cannot jump. If you jump, he'll come out of the ground right below where you're standing. If you're skilled enough, which I'm not, I wish I were, but you can kill all the carries wraiths and stand right where the armored Cyclopses are going to spawn from the ground, and then kill those ones. But it's extremely difficult with the slow level arms of Sparta. I would have more success doing it if I had the arms of Sparta up to level 4 or 5, whatever it is. But the only thing that's difficult about it is that when they do their slash attack, if you're just guarding against it, it'll push you away, and then the guy will spawn. But if you're standing and you parry like that, you'll stay in one place. So it's really unnerving, because every time you do a parry, you're you're questioning and worrying about your footing on the ground, so it can be extremely unnerving. So the strategy I'm going to show you is actually a bit easier, although it's going to require some patience and quick thinking and just full adherence to the protocol. But anyway, I know about the chest behind the other column, but it's an item that I can't pick up, so I'm going to ignore it. And then we'll come up here and go to a save point that I would recommend that you return to after you kill the dogs. And the only reason I even kill the dogs is because I usually am in need of the chests that they guard. So there's another item box towards the screen. I think I'm just going to point it out for you, maybe even open it a little bit to see what's in it. No red light came out, so I know it's not orbs. So now look at these Carrie's Wraiths. Beautiful. Look at that. The artistry and that beauty right there. I wanted that for like a screensaver. It was so awesome. Okay, so when you come in here, the dogs are going to spawn. So remember, do not trifle with these guys. Do the Hyperion charge in the air. Continually kick them, throw them into one another, and just try not to just walk into them from off screen. And the best way to do that is to do the aerial Hyperion charge, which is the auto lock on. And if you want to, you can probably distance yourself from these guys and just do the super plume. But as you can see, I could just go up to the fight right now, but I just want to take care of every enemy in the game. I'm not skipping any fights. And you could actually return to this area once you clear the fight up in the main arena. And there is I think it's an alternating, yeah, it's an alternating chest. But of course, every time you approach an alternating chest with designs of getting either the green or the blue, whichever one you want, it's always the opposite, so you have to wait and possibly move away while trying to survive. Good times. Okay, so a couple more dogs. These goddamn dogs. Piece of shit. So you won't see me go back to the save point. Does that mean I didn't? No. It means that I did what I hope is as seamless edit as is possible. Right up here. So, do I keep in Gaia's narration? Yes, I do. Anyway, so this is what you have to listen to every single time you come up here. It's not long, but it's not short, and it's annoying.
Worshipped long before the Olympians, Thanatos, the god of death, dwelled within.
So there are 3 of the truant Cyclopses. Remember what I said? Ignite charges so that they cancel out the animations. And this arena is pretty big, but it still needed to. I think it still needed to be a little bit bigger. But it still won't give you too much problems. And if you can't see the enemies, the glory here is that you can see their shadows coming towards you, so you can get some idea of how far they are away from you. So I'll show you the attacks that you can actually just guard against. I didn't even know this. Those punches right there, blockable. Those two, but not that one right there, because it's actually a kick. Like a punch and a kick. So, imperative thing here, get the circles over both of these guys and then systematically take them out one after the other, because then you're going to have another spawn. So that's one way of making sure that you'll only have to face one when the hoplite sentries come up. And they'll come up shortly after the last truant Cyclops spawns. This took me a couple of tries too. It's a really intense keys to winning here are using the combat roll to quickly evade igniting charges, and this tactic here of leaving that one guy alone when he has a circle and then getting the circle of the other one. What I'm doing here is I'm switching to my arrows so that I can target this one specifically and not wound the one that has a circle button prompt. And now I'm going to very carefully take one after the other out. Okay, so there's number 2. I love the gore in this game. Okay, so, my bad. These guys spawn before the truant Cyclops spawns. And spam the throw here. Spam it like you've never spammed anything else. It's got a great scale here. These guys look markedly smaller than the huge enemy. It's really great. So, Hyperion charge in the air. A couple of attacks. I was taking too many right there, that's why I got hit. And when these guys are gone, you can then ignite a charge in the Cyclops, make him stun, or, excuse me, get him stunned, and then you can get the chest should you need health or magic, whatever. But the only reason I would use magic here, I don't think I even do, but if I do, it's just for instant iframes if I'm caught in the corner and I can't get out. So I will be using magic on Deimos just for a little bit of fun with him, but I won't be using magic on the final boss. See, the final boss, it takes some practice, but he's actually extremely easy, very predictable, but still challenging withal, and I love that. I love bosses like that. I hate when they're overly difficult, unpredictable, and have some kind of a bit of unfairness to them. It's ridiculous. Okay, so I think we just got one of these guys left. Thrash and Bash. Okay, so I'm very low on health, so what I'm going to have to do is get the chest very quickly and just take care of this motherfucker right now. Okay, so it's just me and this guy. Just charge, ignite charges, stun him, and just tear him up. So that's I would say that's the introduction to this video. We still have a lot to go. But it's my pleasure to remain here and narrate it. Okay, so like right here, just wait until he does all of his attacks. You don't want to be caught in an attack trying to press the O button. It usually gives you the upper hand and the courtesy of pressing the button and the I mean, it usually lets you get away with it, but it really should, because you've earned the right to execute the guy. Okay, so now we've filled up our resources a little bit, having expended some, and now we'll go in here after we listen to him. And if you're still not filled up, there's a couple more chests too. Okay, so I'm just gonna scan the environment to see if there's any smashable objects. I think there's a couple over here. And then here is the first save point in the Temple of Thanatos. Okay, so now that we're in the Temple of Thanatos, we're going to do some smashing of things, get a couple of chests, and essentially just make our way over to the main fight. There's an item box down here. And this one here, I had to have known about this, although it occurred to me that I was seeing something new up here, hidden. I had to have known about that. There's no way. It just seems like something I would have definitely seen, so I'm just pointing that out. Then we will come down here, make our way over to the chain. I just love everything about this chapter except the one fight that, in my opinion, if you have to exploit an arena to win, the fight has something markedly wrong with it. I mean, I've seen on Shinobi's videos and other people's who are, pros, just hands down pros, people saying, well, that's great and all, but how do you do the fight without, exploiting the environment? To which there's no answer, because that's how you defeat it. And I'm all for thinking outside the box, thinking outside of different tactics, but my mind usually never retreats to those kind of defenses where I'm thinking, how do I prevent the enemies from doing what they're supposed to do in the first place? And, how do I make them not behave the way they're meant to behave? And how do I alter their behavior by doing something that you really shouldn't even have to think about doing in the first place?
You will never find what you seek.
So you might have heard Thanatos taunt us right there. Make sure you press the X button over there. But it's just a horrible fight. It's a fight against two enemies that never should be simultaneously thrown at one. Okay, so here's another save point. So you can't come back to those two boxes, although there is another box coming up. Well, there's three in fact, but I don't like getting to the very difficult fight and opening chests every time. So I make sure that I come there with full HP and MP. Now, this can be pretty annoying. You have a decision to make. Do you want to ignore all the enemies and focus on hitting the wheels, which is, it's very possible to do so. So when you get to about this area here, you'll have some spawners on this side and the other. These cursed remains here. Remember what I said earlier in the game. Hyperion charge will take them down instantly, but sometimes the worst thing that usually happens is that you'll try to do the Hyperion charge at one. He'll fall down and tease you, and then you'll run into an attack from another guy. That's always what happens to me. So what I decide to do here, and the thing that I also don't agree with here is that there's a set number of them, but once you kill half of them, the next set they do not yield red orbs. I don't understand why. So if you want to, you can lure all of them down to one side and then focus on the wheels, which you have to destroy with Thera's Bane. Or you can do what I'm going to do. I'm going to kill all of the first spawners except one. That way I won't have many guys to deal with, just one guy to avoid. And if you kill him though, you'll have about 8 more that you have to deal with. So let's see if this guy's the last guy. Okay, so this is the ideal point. I know that if I kill this guy, there's going to be another wave of enemies, so just keep him alive, and then that's the only thing you have to look out for. And the criteria here is just to kill the wheels. You don't have to kill all the spawners to kill the wheels. Just, you know what I'm saying. Destroy the wheels. So I would avoid using magic here, and if you take more than one hit, I would probably suggest restarting, because the treasure box, the health chest is coming up. Well, it's an alternating chest, but the chest is coming up. It might not fill you up. So if you don't mind opening the health chests nearby the fight every single time, that's okay. That's fine. I don't know how you could be, but it's a personal preference. But when I get to the next fight, like I said, it took me easily an hour, and I just want to instantly restart it every time. So the next fight, it's utterly ridiculous. This is the first time I've beat it on Godhard with God and with a no upgrade run plus, and it's the first time I've employed the strategy of taking care of the armored Cyclopses first. Whichever way you choose, it's still going to be difficult. So the last time that I did this to unlock God, I hadn't upgraded, and I was on hard, and I was trying to unlock God. So what I did was I hovered over the area where the Cyclops is, and if you want to see that strategy, it is in Taz1's video. He has a couple of God Ghost of Sparta guides. I don't think it's in his no damage run. I think it's in his other one, his no upgrade run. So if you want to see an example of how to do that, you have that referral that I'm giving you. But to me, it's a little bit more difficult. It's not hard if you have the Arms of Sparta upgraded, because you can throw the arrows quicker and kill the Curious Wraiths more quickly. But this is... I just said, I'll try this. I'll try this a couple of times. And one time I almost did it, and then I said to myself, okay, this is actually a lot easier. So what I'm going to do is stand at the barrier. And the thing is, if you're jumping over here, even if they're doing the ground wave hits you. Even if you're in the air, it's really ridiculous. So over here, jump when he does that, and you won't take damage. And then what we're going to do is do several of these triangle charges. But every time you do the charge, or use Thera's Bane, he will get knocked back. So what I do is I use the magic for the iframes, but since some of the magic hits the wraiths, then they go underground. And at this point, I'm just trying to destroy his armor. So now, see, he's knocked back. They can even grab you from over here sometimes. Most of the time they don't, though. So all I'm using the Eye of Atlantis for is for instant iframes. And from here on out, what normally happens, I'm not going to say 100% of the time, but like I would say 95% of the time, all these guys are going to be doing is taunting you. And if you're using Thera's Bane whilst jumping and pressing the triangle button, it's a bad thing because you'll knock him back. Ooh, god damn that. So that's what I said about having, quick thinking. So now the guy's on this side, but he won't stay still if you go any more forward than I am now. So you can also jump and press the square button, but I just like facing away from the enemies. Other things to know, if you're facing the direction of the enemies and you parry the wraiths, if you inadvertently do it, because it's not hard to do on accident, you'll go forward, and then that will cause the Cyclops to re-aggro, that is, to start moving again. So be very careful. He's going to stay in one place, but you don't want to inadvertently try to grab a wraith, recoil, and then mess everything up. So once this guy's dead, it's back to the barrier. Get back to the barrier ASAP, and then he's going to probably do his charge unless they're in front of him, at which point he's just going to stand there until you make a move towards him. Or, I guess they moved out of the way, so jump right here, and then we're doing triangle. Well, first of all, I'm going to guard. I'm going to try to parry. That's your only recourse here, parrying their grab. And I'm going to ignite as many charges as I can, facing away from him, holding the triangle button. But you see the repercussions of that. The Curious Wraiths got hit, so they're doing what they do. They go underground. So any signs of a close call or anything that causes me stress, I use the Eye of Atlantis. And now I have no more uses of it, so I have to evade. So you can stack the charges in him if you want to. It's actually more beneficial to do that, because that way when he gets knocked back, he'll have most of his armor coming off. So now we're in the same situation we were before. We're just jumping and using the triangle button. But if you connect with a Carries Wraith, they will go underground. But they usually stay back enough, and the hits usually disconnect with the Cyclops. So you might, like, this whole time I'm just worried about them doing their pulse wave, which will hit me even if I'm jumping, even though it's a ground-based attack. And I'm just worried about, anything that will cause this Cyclops to start moving again. But if you just stay here, you could press the triangle button 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and he'll soon be, grabbable. And then, should you not make any mistakes afterwards, the fight is yours. So just be very careful. Go over here. Don't fail the quick time events. And it's 2 sets of 2 Carries Wraiths. Now, at this point, I risk absolutely nothing. Remember what I said. Any combos, any fierce attacks with the triangle button, any use of the magic, any igniting charges in them will cause them to go underground, and you'll have to parry that. And if you fail, I could survive it with my HP, but I would be almost at the brink of death. So another one of my main concerns here is that when I get the O button prompt over these Carries Wraiths, whichever one it is, I want to be very close to her so that I don't have to go out of the way and whilst running be vulnerable from a pulse wave attack. And I also don't want her so far away that by the time I get over there, the O button's fading, and then she's going to do the underground attack where I have to parry it. So just be extremely careful here. Thera's Bane is okay to use as long as you're using square attacks, and just keep in this venue, and you will get a little HP from every kill, which is a nice little incentive. So now I'm looking to kill the one that was left from that first spawn, take her out, and I think we just have 2 more to deal with. It can be pretty intimidating, but at this point, you face these guys so many times, and I've told you exactly how to manage them, that you shouldn't make so many mistakes here that you perish. I think I might have made 1 mistake at some point, but it wasn't such a mistake that it was my undoing or anything like that. So bottom line, keep close to them and keep them on the camera, because as long as you're guarding, there's nothing that they'll do that you can't block against. Okay, so now I want to get back on the camera. Just take little baby steps away from the... See? Okay. Positioning here is very important. Okay, so I'm not sure how the hell I got hit there. That seemed a little suspicious, but I'll take it. So got the the perfect guard, excuse me. And we're just looking to finish this battle off. If you're not patient here, if you take a hit that you don't deserve to have, you're going to be penalized for it, and I wouldn't be sympathetic to you. I know that's harsh, but this battle is completely ridiculous, and it shouldn't be this way where you have to exploit the arena. Unacceptable. So if you can do this fight, the final bosses are nothing. I would say that probably is the hardest fight in the game. So now they give you a checkpoint. You want to go back and get the chests, and you can skip these enemies, but it's annoying to have to do it. It's annoying to fight them in the first place. But if you can get them all grouped over here, you can get to the door and open it before they try to attack you. But I have opened the door. I have skipped these enemies before. I've got to say, I like the design of these guys, but I don't enjoy fighting them. I don't know what it is. I think it's the teasing that they do when they drop down. So Deimos, the Deimos boss battle. How do you deal with it? That's the question. So did you see the Hyperion charge? You can do the Hyperion charge on Deimos in the ground and in the air. But whatever the computer decides is the outcome. That's the outcome that you're going to have to reconcile yourself with. Now, there's going to be several points at which you've hit him so many times that he releases a little bit of health and magic and gets stunned. When you grab him then, the computer gives you the upper hand. Every other time, it's completely arbitrary, and when you're almost dead and you think are almost about ready to kill him, do not take a chance and roll the dice against that arbitrariness of the computer. Because sometimes it'll let you punch him many times. Sometimes you'll punch him twice before he counterattacks, and you'll have to do the shoulder button presses. If any, I would say, like at the beginning of the fight, if ever he grabs you, just restart. It's going to take 3/4 of your health off. So how do you avoid getting grabbed? All you need to do is know that if you're jumping, he can't grab you at the end. So, and he has a certain amount of a duration that he does his charge at. So he's got a stamina. He doesn't have a stamina bar, but he has stamina, meaning that when he charges, it's going to stop at some point. So if you can get far enough away and just get far enough away from him when he's doing the charge, so that you don't get grabbed, you should be able to be relatively okay. And you could stagger him with the square hold and the R1 plus square hold. Although basically I'm just going to do the powerhouse moves and standard hits and some risky grabs at the beginning of the fight, but none at the end. So there is an item box over to the left. It actually might contain red orbs, but I'm not going out of my way to get it. You need to move the platform a little bit past where you're supposed to have it, and then it'll lock into place there. And then just guard here until the fires stop, and then that's it. Deimos took me an hour to kill. Thanatos, first try. Thanatos, excuse me. So now we're at this point. You may recognize it from the beginning of the temple. And we're all filled up, so that's a good thing. And he's very susceptible to being hit with the super plume a couple of times at the beginning of the fight. So take full advantage of that with Thera's Bane. Okay, so here he is. So he does the Hyperion charge too. He doesn't do the aerial one, he does the ground one. Just realize most like 90% of the time he's going to have the upper hand on the counter attacks. So what I'm doing is the powerhouse move, and I'm letting loose with the Scourge, and I'm going to transition that into an aerial Hyperion charge. And you're just going to be seeing me be very aggressive here at first, because there's no risk when you start out right away. And then he throws the sand. Jumping won't save you from the quick time event like with the lion fight. Not the same thing. So just watch for when he releases the health and magic. Okay, this right there. So you have the upper hand here sometimes. See, like, let's see, how many punches do I get in here? 1, 2, 3. Okay, I got in like 3 hits, but you see he counterattacked. So you have to use these at your own risk. But in my experience, you do have the upper hand more often if you do the Hyperion charge, whether the ground-based one or the air-based one, when he is stunned like this, or when he releases the health and magic because he's partially stunned at that point. So you can tap the shoulder buttons rapidly, and then do you see how I'm jumping out of the way of his final attack? And I'm not bothering with parrying or anything like that because I don't want to stay close to him, because his grab is completely arbitrary. Like if he ever grabs you and you didn't, and it's not the result of your own provocation, you don't have the upper hand, and I would say just restart, unless it's near the end of the fight and you think you might be able to survive. You can't survive more than 2 punching matches with him on the ground. That's the thing. So I'm waiting for him to charge. I'm waiting for his stamina to decrease. Then I'm just jumping. See, just jump out of the way. Okay, so now I'm going to do the Hyperion charge on him. And that time, you see how even when he was stunned, it was a little bit of arbitrariness because it was only 3 hits and then he counterattacked. So at this point, it's all up to you how much risk do you need to take, or how much risk do you want to take, particularly if you've done well in the fight. So I just stay away from him, because if you get caught in the QTE when he throws the sand, you can't tap the buttons quickly enough before he grabs you. If you're far enough away from him, you can. So at this point, I'm not even committing to long-winded combos and just quick hits. That was very close. I use the combat roll to get away from him sometimes because he's just too fast. Okay, so I took a gamble here and I paid for it, see? But still, we won.
You left me! Get up! Fight me! I hate you, Kratos!